by the Strawberry Blossom Montessori School. And I see the gallery is replete with interested parties, which is always a pleasure to see. And I would like to know who is going to be presenting on behalf of the applicant. And you are? Jason, step up to the microphone, push the button until it turns green, and we'll call on you in just a second. Before we do that, we need to identify who the voting members on tonight's session will be. There need to be 5. And for the record, it would be myself, Ann Bedard on my right, Heidi Lauritsen, Frank. Frank is not here. Yes. So that would be, and then we had Steve Root, and we need to pick one of our alternates to be in a voting position. And we do this on the basis of seniority or the basis of voluntarism, whichever works best. So which of you 3, that would be Peter, Julia, and Conrad, which of you 3 would like? I'm going to deal with Lauren in just a minute. Yep, Lauren's got a special circumstance, which I will deal with in just a second. So for that reason, which of you 3 would like to be the voting member for tonight? Peter. Thank you. Okay, that doesn't mean that the other 2 alternates can't participate in the discussion. They're welcome to do so. Lauren is an abutter to the property, and so she must be recused from the decision. The juror standard for this Superior Court is the rule. However, sometimes we say, listen, if there's any question, it might be better to recuse, and I think Lauren has agreed to do that. So the only question now, Lauren, is whether you'd like to stay where you are or whether you'd like to join the gallery. It doesn't matter to me, whichever you'd like, because we want your discussion, we want your input, certainly. Pardon? Okay. Lauren's elected to sit with the gallery. That's fine. Are you in a butter? Sorry, the rest of us... The rest of you guys steady on, I'm afraid. Now, let me just say this, if I may, before we proceed. We have before us tonight an application for a special exception. And most of the types of hearings we hear at the Zoning Board of Adjustment are variances. And there's a fundamental difference between the variance and the special exception. The variance allows you to do something that the ordinance prohibits, provided certain conditions are met, and there's 5 of those conditions. Whereas a special exception is something that is permitted by the ordinance as long as certain conditions are met. And if the petitioner can meet, by a preponderance of the evidence, satisfy all those conditions, the board has no choice but to grant the special exception because the use that they seek is allowed in the district. What we have here is an application for a private school in the commercial district, which is allowed in the ordinance by special exception, provided the conditions that are in the ordinance are met. And that is going to be your burden on behalf of the petitioner to put forth sufficient evidence for the board to sustain a finding by a preponderance of the evidence. And the preponderance of the evidence test is just enough that it's more likely than not that the condition that you assert is true. Once those conditions are all met, we will grant your special exception. It does not preclude us from imposing conditions with that special exception. But let's cross that bridge when we come to it. So I will invite you to come to the microphone there and make your presentation and tell us about this Cherry Blossom Montessori School. And I'm sure that there'll be an opportunity for the board members to ask questions about it in an effort to ensure that the conditions that you must meet as set forth in the ordinance will be addressed. So you may anticipate some questions.
Thank you.
Proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is it on? Doesn't sound, just hold the thing right, that's it, hold it right in front of you, because it's for the record, we have to be able to hear it. The recording has to be complete enough for us to transcribe it, so.
All right, thanks.
You're
Jason Hill, project manager, engineer from TF Moran. We're out of Bedford, New Hampshire. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And I'd like, whose name is Liz Niehaus, hope I pronounced the last name correctly. I was just gonna have her open with a description of what she's looking to do, if you're okay with that. And then I'm gonna walk you quickly through the site plan. you all should have in your packages, and if you don't, I have extra copies.
We do, and if I may, just interrupt you for a moment. When the initial materials were posted on the website, we had pages 1 and 2 of the application, and there was a 3-page attachment that did not get attached. Did everybody see that? Everybody's had a chance to read that? Okay, then I'll make sure my board members we're all as up to speed as we can be on this. But go ahead, don't assume we've
Thank you.
already read it.
So I'm just gonna let her talk for a minute, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and tell us about this school, please.
Good evening, members of the Zoning Board and community members in attendance. I am Liz Niehaus, the founding teacher leader and a New London resident. And I'm thrilled to present Strawberry Blossom Montessori to New London tonight. Our team is working to found a community embedded preschool that will offer authentic Montessori education for families of all income levels. New London is cherished for its vibrant community created through its blend of residential and commercial development. Our vision is for children to be deeply connected to the land, the community, and each other. And the 331 Main Street location, which we put under contract from Bar Harbor last fall, is crucial to realizing this vision and our school's values of connectedness, reciprocity, and growth. It will both allow us to welcome community members into our schoolhouse as engaged volunteers and allow our preschool children walkable access to our beloved civic resources. As you well know, there's great demand for more early education options in our region. Other local programs track long wait lists, and many New London residents are not currently working because they're unable to secure childcare. Strawberry Blossom Montessori has a particular mission to foster equitable learning environments with a tiered tuition model that will make the program accessible to low and middle income families. And for other information about our programming, the school will be a licensed child care center. It will have the capacity to enroll 12 toddlers, 24 primary children, and 6 teachers will be employed at the school. The school calendar will be consistent with the Kearsarge Regional School District, running from September to June. And the hours include a 8 to 3:30 school day with limited aftercare until 5 p.m. Our traffic studies have shown that our hours successfully bookend the New London Elementary School hours and do not overlap nor contribute to the elementary car lineup that forms on Gould Road. We are happy to share this news in data with our Gould Road neighbors.
We will probably want to revisit that, but your comments are noted.
The school is a fully incorporated nonprofit governed by a board of directors, and it is a private school that runs on the revenue collected in tuition dollars. Our team has a realistic but tight timeline to opening our doors to families on September 2nd, 2026, and we're appearing before the zoning board 17 months in advance because opening in September at the beginning of the academic calendar when families need childcare guaranteed is crucial to the school's early success. So in closing, we are seeking your approval tonight to enhance a great community with a great school. Our school is different from the current New London preschool offerings, and yet it's not. For centuries, teachers have started schools in their communities that meet the needs of their community. Our team at Strawberry Blossom is just the most recent in a long line of ambitious educators who are passionate about the foundational experiences of our youngest children. Entire lifetimes are built upon the roots we grow during the first 6 years of our life. We're grateful for your consideration this evening, and we look forward to hearing from the board and the community members in attendance. I'm going to pass it back to our civil engineer, who will describe the school's adherence to the requirements and standards for a special exception as outlined in the zoning ordinance.
That was Maria Montessori was the founder, was she not?
Correct.
And she was a doctor, specialized in early education for children, disabled children, or children with special needs, as I recall.
Maria Montessori was one of the first female physicians
Exactly.
in Italy at the turn of the century.
Right.
And exactly, she wasn't permitted to operate in traditional medical spaces, and so she started working with children with disabilities, and she developed this theory of child development and then an environment that matches it. I'll be happy to talk about that with you anytime.
I thought maybe. I just want to make that point. And before I let the engineer have an opportunity to speak, I just want to make it known on the record that the board received 3 letters from abutters regarding the proposal. One from St. Andrews, another from an individual named Greg Berger, who I don't know if many of you know him. And the third one is from the Bar Harbor Bank and Trust, the current owner of the land. All of these letters were very supportive of the school project, and that is noted in the record. I don't think we have received any other communications other than those three. Okay, so.
All right, thank you.
Proceed.
Adam, would you be able to load the site plan?
Oh, you got that, yeah, cool.
All right, thank you. This is the site plan. This is 331 North Main Street. This is currently a vacant property that has a parking lot in the rear that abuts Gould Street. So we have Main Street on the left, Gould Street on the right.
That'd be Gould Road, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then Bar Harbor Branch Bank to the north. And then there's, I believe, a business in that lot that's in the center, and just some other businesses to the north, and Pleasant Street that's running east-west. And the church to the south.
Yeah, the church is over here.
So there used to be a barn and I believe a residential structure that was raised 5-10 years ago on this property. The bank has ownership of it, and there's just remote parking that exists, like I mentioned, that's on the east side. It's not shown here because this is a proposed plan, but there's basically a parking lot that runs wall to wall, almost property line to property line on the east side. That's used lightly, I believe.
Correct.
So this plan would be, then we have an existing curb cut roughly in the location of the new cut, which we're gonna propose to widen just for fire access right there on North Main Street. In order to utilize, there's a nice woodland to the south along the shared property line with the church that's on the east side, which we're looking to basically like provide a nice buffer for the students, which is the reason for the site layout to be as such, where we have the driveway coming in and making a left-hand turn around the building. So that drove the layout of the circulation and the building location, having the strong preference to keep which is on the right-hand side there, that's an outdoor play area and learning area for the students, yeah, with a fence around it. It'll have, with the natural buffer, like I mentioned, on the south. And then the building is, you can see on the left-hand side, that brown rectangular shape, which is I think it's approximately a 4,600 square foot schoolhouse for 36 students approximately, and it's like Liz had mentioned, 6 employees. And then it'll have a drop-off zone off the front. You can see we have a sidewalk connection to Main Street, and then a dedicated drop-off zone along the north in the front with a bypass lane, so that our student entry would be drop-off in that immediate entry sequence patio.
Right. So,
With the ease of not putting a divider island so that the cars can come and go, and that accommodates a few cars, 3 or 4. It accommodates what we project to be the queuing for the
so it's one.
to come. So then if there was, if that was full, there's direct access to the parking on the east side, which is the angled parking. That would be for additional drop-offs. And all pickups, I believe, will occur unless weather in that back area, because in the afternoon they play, and the cars in the afternoon will basically, most of the pickups will occur on this east side in that angled parking area.
So if I may interrupt you,
Sure.
all the traffic comes from here and goes one way through.
Correct.
And although there is access through here at the present time, that access will be terminated with the new construction, is that right? Used to be able to drive around behind the bank
Correct.
and access the parking lot, but that's going to be eliminated
Correct.
so that there's fewer options. It's restricted, it will be restricted to go straight through here and out onto Gould Road.
Correct.
One way.
Now, there is an existing easement for the, right in
Understood.
that, where the
Right
paw
here.
is for access,
Right.
and that'll be maintained, there's a little bridge there, it crosses a little ditch, there's a ditch line for drainage, so we're gonna maintain that access point.
That's your understanding, Lauren, with the property, with respect to that property?
So far, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is Lauren's property here, and I think she is the one with the
Yep.
access.
And then we're gonna, in addition, in the middle section, there's gonna be what's referred to as like a discovery zone, which will be for additional learning for the students. I'm just not sure what we actually titled it, but it's essentially discovery gardens, which is a learning implement, it's a
Here?
tool, outdoor nature,
Yeah,
and
got it.
gardening and such. Liz can speak to any more details on that, but that's gonna be dedicated for student discovery learning. That'll be fenced off as well.
Yeah, I hate
That'll
to-
be the central component of that development.
I hate to ask you that, but there is existing trees in between the old bank building, right in this area here. Will those trees be taken down as a result of your construction?
I don't anticipate that. I think those are all on the Bar Harbor, the 321 property line based on our survey.
I'm not sure whose property they're
We're
on.
not proposing to grade over that line, so I don't anticipate that those would be removed as part of this project.
Thank you.
We will have a small landscape strip, 4 or 5 feet will be retained on the Montessori property. We could potentially put some shrubbery in there. I'm not showing any plantings in our own area because of those trees.
Oh, in
But it's something we could look at. But
Well, those are apple trees, fruit-bearing trees. To the extent they can be saved, that would be great.
yeah, we have no problem with trying to minimize or avoid impacts to those. I don't believe there would be any due to the location of them not being on our property. So, and they'll provide some screening, between the bank and the school. Otherwise, so that's the, and then you just see that we have some facade plantings and such, some new shade trees, to dress up the site, provide shade, increase the curb appeal. This will be a nice architectural new structure up to code, attractive architecture which will blend with the vicinity, residential style, I guess, although it's a school style, it's a contemporary New England style architecture. And then also I'd like to just say, we're reducing if you look at it's the massing is, if you look at the massing of the building compared to the surrounding buildings, it fits in, it's appropriate, it's not overbuilt, it's not too dense. We're actually taking down the impervious coverage from with the historic barn and other outbuilding, this will reduce the impervious footprint over what did exist, traditionally.
What is the surface of the driveway purported to be?
Well, this is gonna be standard asphalt.
Macadam, yeah. Mhm.
I'm not sure what we're gonna do for sidewalk, if it's gonna be concrete or, so we'll have curbing, to protect the sidewalk, maybe concrete or asphalt sidewalk, standard pavement, and then with the drainage and all that, which we'll do as part of hopefully with a successful meeting and approval, we would have to go to the planning board, obviously, to look at that kind of thing. So, looking at drainage, utilities and such, site stuff. And then I anticipate just standard downcast LED lighting, which will be, at night cut off. So it'll blend well. I think it'll be an improvement to the downtown infill of a lot that's been vacant for a while, with a nice new attractively landscaped facade that'll provide a lot of public benefit in some of the way in just the access to alternative education, which will benefit parents, daycare situation, not daycare, but just the that aspect, as well as she had mentioned some tiered pricing potentially, which is an economic benefit to, you know, the community to look at that type of opportunities. And so I think it'll be it'll make the, improve the village in those kind of ways, as well as other ways. So that's, if you just want, before I finish and go into the criteria, could you just, Adam, show the elevation view, just so you know what the building looks like? We can look at it. Although black and white, you can see the elevation view. That would be from looking at the building. The top view is from the bank side, I believe. Let me check. I have it right here. So that's the east elevation, which is looking at the building from the drive up and drop off conditions. So you're looking at it from the west at the east face of the building. Okay. The second view is the north elevation. This is what it's gonna, from Main Street, this is how it'll look with the projected end sticking out at you. And this, you can see the break in the roof line. And I'm not an architect, but to describe the features, but you know, we're talking about just clapboard. It'll be painted clapboard, asphalt standard shingle roof, things of that nature. And so then the view that'll be from the church property is that view number 2 is looking north, and then view number 1 is the view from Gould Road.
From the parking lot.
From the parking lot. So I think, to me, that's an attractive traditional architecture that complements what I've seen driving in here, some really older in the structures in the village and around the village. It's set back appropriately from the street, so it'll be not jammed in there. It'll have a nice facade approach. So I think it'll, like I said, be a nice complement to what you have in the village.
Well, given the fact that we don't have a variance before us, I would say that it's complying, the proposal complies with all the current setbacks in the commercial zone.
So there's requirements for the special exception, as you mentioned, which I'm going to kind of go over what we submitted in writing, generally, okay? Unless you would, so I'm going to.
Well, there'll be discussion. So after after you're concluded with your remarks,
Yep.
there'll be an opportunity for the board members to put questions to you.
Sure.
And as well as members of the gallery, if they have any questions, we want to make sure that all the questions, any question anyone might have relating to the project would be answered. And then once all those questions are answered to everyone's satisfaction, the board will stop the Q&A and we'll go into a discussion mode when we will discuss that evidence that you put forth in an effort for us to reach a decision. And then at the end of that, we will take a vote. So there will be some Q&A opportunities as we go along. So, and you may be interrupted from time to time with questions as they arise.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. So the first criteria is relative to the location and the size of the use, the intensity of the operation, with respect to basically being harmonious with the surroundings. So I kind of talked about that already in some regards. The site has been designed to conform to all the prevailing zoning criteria, meaning setbacks, coverage, other things. This ensures general compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. Now, a lot of the buildings are actually non-conforming, although there is some, you know, the ordinance allows some lenience with regards to existing structures and having 0 setbacks, but we'll be, like I said, setting it back appropriately off of the road as to not crowd Main Street. We will provide an attractive landscaped and open space which will enhance the the values of the neighborhood, curb appeal, providing adequate open space for the customer or the student and, any public, to interact with the site. We are increasing the net impervious coverage from what it historically has been, which is obviously a good thing in terms of runoff and promoting green space and landscaping over hardscaping. And this location being central to the village and the community and the greater area with access to 89 and such, it'll benefit the public. There's many businesses in the school already in this area with staffing, which could provide very I can't think of the word, but convenient use of the school due to all the proximity of the businesses and where it sits in the village. So these reasons are a testament as to why we meet the criteria A for harmoniousness. The second criteria is similar, but it relates to the height, structure, the scale of the structure relative to the surroundings, again, the intensity of the use, and then adversity of impact to the environment and orderly development of the use of land and buildings, which would impair the value or be detrimental to the neighborhood, causing, obnoxious things, noise, odor, light, dust, smoke, fumes, odor. We contend that we will not create dust, significant dust, light, noise, odor, which would alter the,
Well, it's not like it was manufacturing of sorts.
Yeah.
Maybe some screaming children perhaps at recess, but no worse than the elementary school.
correct.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
So for those reasons, we're not going to disturb the neighborhood. It'll actually enhance the character of the village, providing a complementary function to the surrounding businesses and the general public, an alternative means for early education and childcare. Now, this new structure, as I already talked about, its massing and height is consistent with the surroundings,
Well,
excluding the school, which has the huge building.
it's tall. It's not as tall as the previous colonial
It's true.
house that was there,
the
two-story
barn.
colonial house,
Yeah, in the barn.
and the barn. Is there use? We don't have a floor plan. What is your intention with respect to the use of the attic area? Is that storage or offices, or I don't know how I'm just curious, not that it's that important, I was just curious what your intended use of that was.
So my name is Anthony Mento, and I'm with Shearman Crystal Paulson Architecture out of Concord, and we
Yeah, just feel free to grab the microphone, it's not
we
going to
are
bite you.
working on this project, and currently we do not have any quote attic space. It's open vaulted ceilings with some mechanical space through the plenum. So it's one floor slab on grade. It's small, contained site. It's as you were saying, it's the height of the building is below the required height maximum, and it's within the setbacks all the way around. And one of the things that I don't believe was included in the submission today was the landscape architect's visualization of how they intend to beautify the back lot. What is included in here is like a first draft of the
Understood.
site plan. So,
Well, anything's an improvement over macadam, I would think.
agreed. Thank you.
I can't speak for the board on that, that's my personal opinion. Sorry.
Thank you. So the third is criteria C. That's belt and suspenders. This use is specifically allowed as a special exception under the ordinance that's been read into the record. Generally.
We take a judicial notice of that it's in the commercial zone, and this is an allowed use under the zoning ordinance, provided the special exception criteria are met.
Thank you. And then following that would be, and this is more of a planning board thing, which is stated in the criteria. It's talking about sewage, water, utility, drainage, public-private utility adequacy. No. Although we will be dealing with the board on these matters hopefully following a successful outcome. With a special exception, we've had preliminary discussions with the utilities.
Yeah, the water, that's an issue, but that's not our problem.
Yeah, so I'm
As
actually
the
meeting
ZBA.
with them next week to
Yeah,
secure a conditional of what seems to be from speaking preliminarily with the superintendent of the precinct. We suspect it's a low water use. It's essentially a large house in terms of flow. We anticipate, getting a conditional approval next week at the meeting on the 7th
Right.
with the water, and that would be conditioned into our planning board process.
if I may interrupt you just for a second, Adam Ricker, our zoning administrator, has some input on that if you would like to hear it. Maybe the board members would like to hear it. Yeah, please.
As far as the town-owned utilities, the sewage, the waste disposal, at the department heads meeting last week, we reviewed the application. The Public Works Director did not have any concerns about our sewer capacity or our transfer station capacity, if you choose to use the transfer station. And glad to hear, Liz and I have talked a lot about the potential issues with the water precinct and their capacity. And so I've been in communication with Rob Thorpe as well and understand you'll be there next Tuesday night. So I think, any approval of this criteria would have to, take that condition into account. But as far as the town-controlled utilities, there were no concerns.
And the town's actually got plans to put in a new water line in Main Street. I'm not sure about the construction schedule.
That's done. The water main is completed, and I don't know what they did with the tap on the water main for your lot service, because at the time they redid that, the lot was vacant. You'd have to talk to them
Sure.
for the
So the water
specifics.
precinct, not
Yeah.
the town.
Excuse me.
Yep.
The water precinct. So yeah, that's all underway, and we're going to be wrapping up those securities, soon. Following criteria would be criteria E, which is regarding traffic, both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. As I mentioned, we're proposing to alter the existing curb cut at 331 Main Street. The school will have a small enrollment, 36, limited staff, limited traffic. The driveway would be a one-way drive as currently designed, which would enter on Main Street, exit on Gould Road. Gould Road and Main Street are both two-way roads with no median. There's two-lane roads. Main Street is a DOT jurisdiction. Gould Road is a local jurisdiction. We are in the process of getting a driveway permit updated from DOT for that Main Street. And I mentioned the design. We have situated the bypass and drop-off lane and sized them such based on anticipated inflow of traffic in the morning, which is 8 to 8:30. Primarily, we get all the people coming.
So the idea is not to back up traffic on Main Street trying to take a right turn into the drop-off zone because there's no room in the drop-off zone.
Yes.
That
So we have
sounds like
free
it.
access and egress into the drop-off zone.
Understood.
With overflow parking if that becomes occupied fully, briefly. And we also have a driveway that's pretty long. It's a good general term, but by setting the building back, the approach, if there was a brief queue where the cars didn't realize they had to bypass the traffic, we have room to store several vehicles in the approach, and we're not designing for that, but you wouldn't even see a backup onto Main Street until you had quite a severe problem, which their staff, if that ever occurred, and we've discussed this, would handle the direction of traffic around the drop-off zone and into the appropriate parking.
I was going to ask that, yeah.
So that's all been figured into the design process. And we're talking about 30 cars over 30 minutes,
So,
equally distributed north-south, 15 cars left turn, 15 cars, right turn. That's 1 car per 2 minutes. It's not like a retail flow of traffic where you have a heavy slug
Right,
and a lot of volume.
The problem's going to be people coming up Main Street trying to take a left turn across the traffic. That's going to be the problem.
Well, I don't think it is, but
Well, with no light, I think it might be.
we looked at that, and Liz helped us look at it, and we looked at this week, actually, when school was in session. During that period, we measured the traffic, and I actually have a copy I can submit if you want me to. And during that rush hour in the morning, the northbound traffic going to Peter Christian's, which is obstructing the left-hand turn, or would be,
Yeah.
you're getting roughly like 1 car per 15 seconds gap during the peak rush hour in the morning. Now that opposing volume of traffic, the gaps is more than adequate to turn vehicles at an approach rate of 1 car per 2 minutes. So based on this traffic, we found that there's, and I am not a traffic engineer, my firm is, and so I'm aware of the traffic. But so based on the actual volumes we're seeing flowing north and the gaps in existing traffic during rush hour and the projected limited traffic making that left-hand turn, there's plenty of gaps to accommodate any queuing back under normal conditions that we've seen.
Understood. And there's no parking spaces next to the parking lot on the main street on that side of the road,
Oh, you're saying
Which-
the bypass?
which permits the southeast-bound traffic to go around those persons making the left
That's another
turn.
good point, which I didn't.
They got rid of those parking spaces years ago.
So you essentially have a built-in bypass lane, is what they
Right.
call it. So we do not see an issue with queuing problems from that left turn based on what we've studied, okay?
All right, well,
And then, like I said, we're providing a sidewalk connection through the site and into the site. Actually, I'm not connecting to Gould Road because there's no sidewalk there now, so it's generally not a good practice to lead a sidewalk to nowhere where you're introducing heads into traffic. So we're not cutting through the whole block. We have ADA accessible route from Main Street in, and then an accessible route from our parking in.
is that this thing that terminates?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Then, there's only 2 more things that I'm gonna mention, and that's item F, which is, a lot of these are overlapping the fundamentals behind the special exception. So this F criteria says that the use will not be detrimental to the character or enjoyment of the neighborhood by reason of undue variation or violation of the character of the neighborhood, which,
Well, as the board members ask you more about the operation of the school, what's going on every day, give us a typical day at the school, which may not be your forte.
Sure.
But that question may be asked, and then once we learn what they do all day and what might be likely to occur, we can assess whether or not this part of the,
then I'm gonna kick that into that question being asked, rather than approach it myself. Like you said, I'm the civil. So
well, you go ahead and,
would you like me to volunteer?
you're certainly welcome to address it.
Would you like
yeah.
to speak about?
However you guys want to do that. I mean, I don't want to raise issues with the board that aren't issues, but
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So daily use would be the children are inside the building for the first 2.5 and 3 hours of the day. That's the typical Montessori morning work cycle where they're working in the classrooms. And then around 11:30 each day, we'd have a community lunch inside the building in most weather. Hopefully there will be some months we can have it outside, after which there will be an outdoor play period in the middle of the day. So children will be out in our garden, the Discovery Garden, playing for about an hour. And then the toddlers and the 3-year-olds in the primary class come inside. They take a nap in school, so they're napping inside for the next 2 hours. Our 4 and 5-year-olds might play outside for a little bit longer. Then they also come in the afternoon for their afternoon Montessori work cycle. And then we'll end the day. The day pickup begins at 3 o'clock and ends at 3:30. So we'll end the day with that last half hour outside again, hopefully in most weathers, playing. And then we'll have a very limited aftercare program, maybe about 8 or 12 children who are at the school till 5 p.m. And the goal is for them to mostly be outside during that time, weather permitting.
So if they want to take a field trip to the Tracy Library, that's no big deal. They can walk across the crosswalks, right? What if they want to take a field trip? How do you arrange transportation?
So that's a great question. You can't transport preschoolers. There's just no way to have a bus with all the car seats. That's why we're so interested and why we put this land under contract, because you have to have walkable access with young children. And we very much want to work with the town and with the bicyclist and pedestrian committee to make sure that we have safe sidewalks around our new curb cut. That crosswalk is right across from the proposed school lot right now.
Yep.
And I was able to meet with Russ yesterday and talk about, what are ways we could potentially enhance that crosswalk so it's visible to all drivers in all weathers and all people of all abilities are able to cross it safely. The municipal lot is also, as we addressed, across from this school lot. And so potentially families might want to use that lot in the morning and cross the crosswalk and walk their child on the sidewalk into school as well. So we're thinking about that, but we're gonna walk with the children. That's permitted based on childcare licensing with your current ratio of teachers. If we wanted to take a longer field trip to someplace like Spring Ledge or the New London Barn, then we would engage community volunteers to walk with us. So we just have extra adults as we walk down more of Main Street to ensure safety for children.
So your school would have no van or anything like that?
Say it again?
You wouldn't have a van of your own?
No, those
It
aren't
would
in our
all
plans
be
for now.
volunteers or they walk?
We walk.
Right,
Yep.
understood.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
obviously the green is right there, the ice rink in the winter, the library. We'd love to have a relationship with Woodcrest and the senior center, and even access the Osmond Sargent trails that are just down Pleasant Street.
Need some sidewalks down there, another issue for another day.
Those are some of the best in town.
They are, yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you.
I have a question, sorry.
Yes,
I have a
please, go ahead.
question. Can you just tell me a little bit about that Discovery Garden? Are there going to be, toys and things like that out there? Is it going to be enclosed in any way, or how's that going to work?
Yes, we're gonna fence around the entire garden. Licensing just requires you have a fence that children can't go under, over, or through. So a low fence and likely, it'll be with wooden slats and mesh, so it'll be attractive. And we're planning a natural playscape in our Discovery Garden. And so our current plan has a lot of curves and twists and paths. We want children to feel like they're constantly turning the corner and finding a gravel pit with trucks in it, and turning the corner and, finding a pollinator garden. Our goal is to plant native plants and to plant a low water need garden as well. We know water is on top of mind of our town these days. So a low maintenance garden, but plenty of vegetable beds, plenty of edible plants. We want the garden to engage all the children's senses, including textures and smells and taste. And so this is a particular passion of mine, and so we're going to invest a lot in the design of this and make it aesthetically pleasing and really interesting for children over the years. They'll be in our school for many, many years, and so we want them to continue feeling like they're finding places to explore.
But the enrollment terminates at what age?
The last year they could be with us is their kindergarten year.
Understood.
Yeah. And they leave us when they're 6.
Any other questions from any of the board members about how this thing operates? Go ahead, Stephen. Yeah.
I have questions about something else.
No, any kind of questions. I mean, I guess, does that essentially concludes your presentation? Is there anything else you wanted to add before we open it up to questions?
Sorry about that.
Make sure you had a
The
chance.
last criteria wasn't just mentioned, which is G. I mean, it was mentioned so many ways, but I should mention it. specifically, that's, that the structure or use shall be compatible with the spirit and intent of the ordinance. So the spirit and intent of the ordinance is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The proposed use is consistent with the ordinance and will not change the essential character of the neighborhood. The essential character of the neighborhood is comprised of a mix of commercial, residential, educational uses, restaurants,
Restaurants and inns.
inns.
Have you thought about, do you see any adverse effect on the inn? I mean, how do you, I don't know, I haven't thought about that.
No,
but-
I mean, I don't think we'll have a negligible impact on, especially negative impact on anything in the village. And the village consists of many complementary uses, banks, some of the same things we've mentioned, inns, single-family residences, both public and private educational facilities.
Church.
So this school will complement the village, the existing usage, the existing use is within the center of the village and then the overall town. It'll fulfill a valuable role in providing, alternative educational opportunities to the public. The harm to the applicant, if this special exception is denied, is it won't allow them to reasonably utilize the property. The property's been idle for several years. Idle properties are deemed to be against the best interest of the public. Reasonable development of the property is a benefit to the public.
Do you have a site for that, by the way?
Sorry?
Idle properties are not necessarily the best use of the, do you have a site for that? I mean, that's a good point. I
seen
like
it-
that
I've
idea. I
seen
just
it
want to know where it
used
came from.
In many legal arguments. I've seen it used in many legal arguments before boards, both zoning by attorneys and professionals, land use, so, and I think it's true, so I incorporate it in my development. And so for those reasons, approval of the special exception will benefit the applicant, owner, abutters, public, town in general, and these are the reasons that the spirit of the ordinance is observed.
Thank you. Yep, at this point, I think if you have no more presentation to make to us, anything else you want to add before I turn it over to questions?
I would like to address our traffic study. We addressed Main Street, but we also want to address Gould Road, and particularly the elementary car lineup. Adam, I have some visuals. I don't think you're able to project, are you?
No,
Yeah.
just what you've submitted.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I'll share it with you.
I have handouts if you need them. I have 10 handouts.
Okay, yeah, will you pass this to the board? Thank you. Great. So Jason's going to hand out our traffic study from last week.
And tell us a little bit about that. That's the two of you guys sitting down there with a stopwatch? Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's all
Exactly.
right.
And
Good, thanks.
we worked really hard to mitigate traffic. We know that's a big concern for our town, and particularly the neighbors on Gould Road who already are contending with elementary school traffic. And so we want to make sure that this plan works for the town and works for the abutting properties. So just going back to Gould Road in the morning, our proposed school drop-off hours are 8 to 8:30. When we studied it, the elementary car lineup that I'm sure you're aware of, that happens on Gould Road twice a day, that starts lining up on Gould at 8:23 in the morning. Only 7 cars reach that lineup. In 2 minutes later, traffic is moving towards the elementary school. In 2 minutes, traffic is cleared off. So there are only 2 minutes that families will be exiting our lot, and they will have to make a right-hand turn because they will not be able to turn left safely, and they cannot join that lineup. Other than those 2 minutes, families will be able to leave our lot, make a safe and easy left or right-hand turn, depending on which direction they're headed.
I'm sorry, if I may, I can't remember anything anymore. What was the weather on Thursday, the 27th of March? Was it fair? Was it pouring rain? Was it howling wind? What was going on?
It was cloudy, it wasn't raining, it was that it was that misty, it was that foggy, cloudy morning.
Kind of an average day.
Yeah, with a little less visibility, I'd say.
I'm just wondering if there could be a significantly different traffic flow if it were pouring rain.
And before we appear with the planning board, we're going to do multiple traffic
Understood.
studies. So this is our traffic study from March. And as we mentioned, our school will not be open in July and August when our town swells with the most residents in the summer and visitors.
So I should just say, I'm involved with doing traffic studies. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I read reports and I know some of the basic parameters of traffic studies. So the weather, when you do scope traffic with DOT projects, they do not consider the weather unless it's like a snow when they're plowing. But the only discounts you get for traffic, basically when they don't consider the data adequate, is when school's not open, or if you have, so it's peak hour condition, schools should be open, and Mondays and Fridays. Those are usually not standard study days because people take long weekends
Right.
on either end. So studies are done as long as your studies
Tuesday,
are
Wednesday,
done under
Thursday. Got it.
standard weather conditions, including light rain events, and you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday if we're open, but we're not. So this would meet those criteria as an acceptable scope of a traffic study.
True,
Just wanted to tell you.
true, but it's also true that this school is proposing to operate on the Kearsarge Regional School District calendar. So if anything, it's going to increase the traffic flow on school days whenever there's school. It's just going to piggyback on top of whatever's going on at the elementary school, and that's one of the things we have to think about and make sure we have an adequate explanation for and understanding of in our deliberations, that's all.
You saying
Not right or wrong.
like so I was saying when she counted and we determined that there was the gaps during that peak hour period in the morning when traffic was going to the school through the village. It's not being diverted by our project, so we're not.
No, but we've added 36 more
Yep.
bodies that have to be dropped off in the morning and picked up in the afternoon on the existing roadways. That's all I'm saying, and it's on all the same days the school is. It's
Yep.
not mitigated by any scheduling. The scheduling is all the same. Everybody's going to the same place at the same time. That's all I'm
Now,
pointing
your
out.
school does open later,
There's a half an hour difference, 20-minute difference. Understood. I
but
get
when we
that.
do traffic, we're looking at primarily what's happening on Main Street. That queue that you brought up at the beginning of the meeting, that left turn is the condition that when we do traffic studies, and I do a lot, my firm does a lot of them.
Yep.
And we're looking at peak hour, left turn, and then we'll look at right, but usually left, that's the one. And with the gaps in the flow of such length, and it's still a low number of traffic
Right.
when you add 15 cars one direction, 15 the other. I mean, that's like a yard sale someone could have but
Right.
so we feel that the limited amount of traffic coupled with what we've observed in the existing typical day traffic during that same period will not exacerbate any or create any significant queuing in the village.
Right,
That's all I'm saying.
but we also understand that the traffic projections is all queuing theory. It's a series of random events, random operations every day, and how many people does it take? How long does it take to drop them off? How many, I understand all that. So this is good. More iterations might be more valuable, but I don't see any, I can't
do-
speak for the board, but I don't see anything fatal in this analysis. But I'm just suggesting that queuing theory has not been applied. We're just doing the rough data. That's all we're doing.
And I know that as part of this driveway being DOT jurisdiction, so that's the state's driveway.
Right.
And we have to get a state permit to do this project, that the state is actually going to assess this condition, and the state will not allow us to exacerbate
Right.
a queuing condition. We have to mitigate it, or they'd prohibit a left turn. So we're comfortable with so what I'm saying is, engineering-wise, we're comfortable with our traffic projecting.
Right.
That will be verified by the DOT and vetted during the driveway process. And we won't get the driveway permit if the state finds that there's an issue, and therefore she won't have the project, or we'll have to
Right.
modify it.
This is only the first of several hurdles. You have
Sure.
to get past the planning board. You have to get past, yeah,
A lot of, but so.
but we got to get the use thing squared away, and that's why we're here, is to see this.
But
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know that that's part of the process. that they're gonna
Thank you.
We
Adam,
do just want to make one clarification point that the state is Main Street, and so the issue where Michael is pointing out is on a town road. Gould Road is a local road, so your driveway will need a town permit there.
Correct.
Excuse me, I have while we're on
yeah,
traffic.
please do. Please, Conrad, yes, go ahead.
My question is, do you have any numbers or figures on Pleasant Street, either side of it, with regard to the fact that that's a major feeder in toward the direction of your school and the rest of the town from either direction? It's also the only intersection. I mean, you're looking at two-way traffic here, but there's a lot of traffic moving on those, having sat in line for a while, trying to clear that intersection, and encountering people passing on the passenger side on the main road, trying to clear the area that you're talking about, which I don't think is legal. If I'm,
He's talking about Pleasant Street.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have
So
to, if I may.
We haven't studied that on Pleasant Street, but we definitely will incorporate that in our next studies. And that is a very hard intersection to cross through if you're trying to go straight through Main
in
Street.
any direction at that
Yep.
given time. I think it does, yeah, marked by the fact that I think it's the only blinking yellow light we got, right?
It's
Not
just
the
two
only
stop
one, but
sign- It's just two stop signs.
It's the
There's no
major one
Yeah, yeah.
in my life.
Yeah. Michael, I just want to go back to your comment about us aligning with the Kearsarge district, and we've chosen that strategically to make it convenient for families.
I understand. I'm not making a criticism or expressing an opinion either way about that. I'm just observing the fact that your schedule piggybacks on top of theirs, and that's fine. I understand that, but it tends to mean everybody's going out at the same time for various reasons, but they're all converging with different purposes at the same time, that's just how it is.
Right.
I understand.
I'd like to talk about Gould Road in the afternoon because that is a significant impact on the neighborhood. So our traffic study showed that the elementary school lineup starts on Gould Road before 2:30. And then by 2:50, there are 31 cars almost going the length of Gould, almost to Seamans. At 2:52, the line starts moving. It takes 9 minutes for 35 cars to fully clear off of Gould. As when we have some Gould neighbors here tonight, and they can speak more to this, by 3:01, all the elementary cars are off of Gould. That is when our pickup begins. And so, again, preschool families will be able to safely and easily make a left or right-hand turn on Gould.
That's convenient timing. That's good. I don't think I understood that, so thank you.
Was there an extension for after-school? Part of your population?
Right, we'll have a limited aftercare program for 8 to 12 families, so we'll have fewer families turning onto Gould from 3 to 3:30. We expect of our 36 children, at least 6 of the families will have 2 children in the school, so only 30 cars coming in and out every day. We expect from 3 to 3:30, 24 cars, and then just before 5 o'clock, about 6 cars, which is minimal impact. And of course, 30 cars coming in a 30-minute block is what school traffic is. That also means that there will be no traffic turning into our lot for about 7 hours of the day. It's concentrated, of course, to these 2 times of the day.
I have a follow-up question on that, too. And you did say, I think, that there is the municipal lot across the street that some people might take advantage of, and because nobody has a crystal ball, you might have families that walk their children to school, which reduces the number of cars, so we don't actually, you're giving us worst-case scenario,
Yeah.
effectively. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, thank you for adding that. And yeah, I know based on, maybe we have, someone who works at a Main Street business and they park on Main Street. They walk their child on the sidewalk to our school, and then they go back to work.
Or at the college, for example.
Or at the college, yeah. What a wonderful way to start your day, walking through town with your preschooler.
I could think of things worse. Having walked to school uphill both ways of a distance of 2 miles. Couldn't ride the bus when I was a kid because you lived too close to school. If you lived within 2 miles of school, you couldn't ride the bus. You had to walk, which is great. Walking through town it was a wonderful experience. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to digress. Anyone have any board members? Steve, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have some questions, some details. What is the size of the site? I see some data, but I'm not clear.
It's, so it's 2 lots, combined it's 1 acre flat.
Okay, so about 44,000 square feet. And the building is 4,600 square feet, 1 story, no basement?
Correct.
Okay. I'm confused on the school district hours in the morning. What are their drop-off times?
Right, the elementary school,
Today, they've changed those times over the years, but it's,
thank you, Lauren.
Oh, okay, so you're
I'm
getting-
sorry. For the record, that was
8,
8:30 to 8:45. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Steve, we're looking to accommodate teachers at the elementary school who might have young children, so they can drop their child off with us, go teach for the day, finish their day, and pick their child up with us. So we have slightly longer hours on both ends.
Okay, another detail, and some of these details I'm asking because we are making findings of fact regarding all these things, but the height of the building, the only thing I've heard so far is that it's below the maximums for that district. I don't actually know offhand what the maximum is. Could you tell us precisely what the proposed height of the building is?
I can't give you the actual per inch right now, but it's about 28 feet.
Okay, and do you know the height limits? And maybe Adam can tell me?
35.
Okay, so 35, 28, you're well under. Okay. That does it for me.
Any other questions from any of the board members?
Yeah, you anticipate that the staff will park in those diagonal parking places on site? And
Yeah,
there'll
so-
probably be, what, 6, 8 cars?
5 or 6 cars, the last 5 or 6. And then we have 2 ADA parking, so that leaves about 7 or 8 slots for parents to do slightly longer term parking. Park, walk your child on the sidewalk, and then go back to your car.
You mentioned the lighting. I believe the engineer mentioned the lighting. Will it be international dark sky compliant?
We
Yes?
intend-
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Curious. Yep.
so I'm going to add, number 1, I think it's a great idea. Number 2, I don't know if I can drive around the building on the other side. I really don't. It's not on the side that the old timers are used to. The red house was next to the bank, not next to the thing. You're going to wake the neighbors, but I'll try really hard if I go through the driveway. I do know, because I've had various experience in town with lots of different issues, that parking lot has a lot of drainage underneath it. We come downhill, and that parking lot catches a whole lot of water. So I advise you, looking at it, that somebody looks seriously at what's underneath there. Between the sewer, the water department, the highway department, I'm not even sure, Rob should know quite a bit, but I don't know what the other departments know. Excuse me. He's the
Dig
water-
safe. Got to use a dig safe.
No, you can't use dig safe.
Why not?
That is,
Ground radar.
It's all been done helter-skelter over the last, I don't know how many years. But if I were to guess, that building will be over some of that. So be very careful.
Thank you, Anne. We've had our geotechnical engineer already at the site, and they've taken 5 borings, and they have addressed the site where the red house existed,
Yep.
particularly looking at where our foundation might overlap with that building. And we are also scheduling test pits for next week to take a look at the soil again. And we've had a new survey done to look at drainage, so all of that will be incorporated into our planning board site
Okay,
plan.
all right. A lot of pipes under there that you probably don't know about.
We've also done an environmental phase 1, which came back with good results, clean results.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll come back to, I can't remember exactly what my neighbor question was. Yeah, I do sort of remember. Have you been in touch with the inn, because you are changing the building to the other side, and the side towards the bank is not terribly attractive, and the side toward the inn they've worked on to be attractive because they want the inn people to look out at attractive things. Have you talked to them at all, or?
We haven't made contact with them yet. We definitely intend to do so. I know when you drive Main Street right now, that side of the building is, in the wraparound porch, is
Yeah.
really on display. Part of our setback that's farther than the required setback
Okay.
is to allow that view towards their beautiful historic building.
Yep.
And to break up the where the buildings all start on that part of Main Street.
Okay.
Yeah, the drive is switched.
Oh, big time.
It'd be switched completely. Okay. Any other questions by the board members of the presenters?
Yeah,
Okay.
were there abutter notifications for this phase?
Yes.
So they've all been notified and the inn had no response?
Yes, I think it was 21 abutter notifications went out in
My only other
required.
thought was, were there alternatives to the driveway layout for two-way traffic explored, and why was that turned down?
Thank you for that question. We explored a lot of things. So we certainly explored having the driveway on the historic side. Those are beautiful old maples and some pines at the back, and we didn't want to disrupt that delicate root system there by paving over it. As Jason said, we also want children to really enjoy that tree line as their shaded play. And so we felt that the drive was best on the other side. And then, yes, we looked into having a building on Main Street, the children's garden behind it, and then parking in the back where parking is currently, and having the entrance and exit on Gould. We felt, for a few reasons, that wasn't our best plan of action. One, that creates the traffic loop for family. It just creates a little less clarity on where incoming traffic is coming from when you're doing these short-term drop-offs and you're getting in a spot and you're backing up and you're backing out of the spot. We feel that this one-way design provides real clarity and safety for parents. When they're backing up, they just need to look behind to see if there's any oncoming traffic, and then they can pull out. Second, we didn't feel it was fair to Gould Road to have an entrance and exit. From there, we looked at what it would look like to have a small drive coming off of Main Street, and that would be our ADA accessible parking, but we felt it was too much traffic generation on Gould Road.
Further questions? Seeing none, I would open it up to the members of the gallery in attendance. Do you have any questions of the presenters with respect to any of the things that have been discussed here tonight? Any questions you would like to have answered, or any comments you wanted to make? I would ask that you come to the microphone and identify yourself and ask away or state away, as the case may be. Yeah, go ahead. You guys sort it out.
My name is Bill Reinstein, resident of New London. I'm actually here on behalf of my wife, Marcia Reinstein, who's a board member of the Strawberry Blossom Montessori.
You have a signed paper from her? No, I'm just kidding.
So I'm just going to make a statement on her behalf since she couldn't be here. Hello, I am Marcia Reinstein, a founding board member of Strawberry Blossom Montessori and a resident of New London. It has been a privilege to work on the board of Strawberry Blossom for a full year now. This organization is thoughtful with every decision, extremely well organized, financially responsible, and holds a mission dear to my heart as a grandparent and community member. As a grandparent of a child who attends a Montessori program in Connecticut, I can tell you the extraordinary level of education and emphasis on developing independent thinkers is like no other school that I know of. Perhaps our grandson and the New London Strawberry Blossom Montessori children will join the ranks of Yo-Yo Ma, Taylor Swift, Julia Child, Helen Keller, Anne Frank, Sergey Brin, Larry Page, and George Clooney, who all had a Montessori education. Having a nonprofit school on Main Street will not only enhance childcare options for the New London workforce, but will also create meaningful ties with the community members that live here. Liz has communicated a vision of multi-generational connection with the members of the New London churches and senior living centers, as well as partnerships with our wonderful town businesses and community groups. Approving the zoning for Strawberry Blossom is a win-win for the town of New London. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman there, yes, please come forward, state your name, please.
Hi, my name's Steve Allenby. I live in New London, and I'm also the president of Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners. We have well over 100 volunteers looking to build community in this area, and one of the initiatives we've really started to focus on is childcare, and it's a disaster here as well as other places in the state. We've been interviewing parents, we've been interviewing others, and it's not going to get better, I'm afraid, especially with government cuts and those sorts of things. I've been talking to Liz for over a year and working with Nancy Rollins in terms of trying to find alternatives. And this is an amazing opportunity for us. And we at KMP strongly support it. It's needed on so many levels, and we hope that you can find your way to approving it. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. In the front. And then Nancy, yeah, I'm calling you anyway, Nancy. You're not getting out without making a comment.
Hi, I'm Kristen Angeli. I own 22 Pleasant Street. It's actually owned by my LLC, which is Martha's Cottage LLC. I bought that building almost, 2.5 years ago, and there are 2 businesses that operate out of that building right now. When I purchased that building, obviously there was not a school in the backyard. I do hear the elementary school, and I have a woman who is operating a business out of the building that has quiet treatment rooms. So having the elementary school nearby and hearing that from a distance is fine, but I'm particularly concerned about noise. So that's my first concern, because right now we have a very quiet location there. And I think going forward, I'm also concerned about how that would affect my property value, as far as if I were to sell the building and having the school and the noise back there and the uses that could be used. So those are just a couple of my questions and concerns. And then
I'm
also,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to ask you to tell me in a little more detail where your property is. I can't.
Oh, sure.
Street numbers are great, but I.
So Mike Shirella was there for many years.
Oh, right.
It's
So you're in the old Kidder building,
yeah,
the block building.
Yep.
With the weight room in the front and the yoga studio and, yeah, whatever.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I
Now
wish
I
it
understand.
was yoga, but it's,
It was the telephone company, that is correct.
Yeah,
Kearsarge Telephone Company, that's where they started, right there.
And so when everything was established there, I have a 100-foot easement for the driveway. The driveway is not owned by my building, but I obviously have the availability to, the easement to use that, and that's a deeded easement for that driveway off of Pleasant Street. Just
Off
to
of
be
Pleasant
clear.
Street,
Off of
correct.
Pleasant Street. But when this was all established, you know, it was all kind of used, the phone company was there, but it was established so that you could drive through that parking lot.
Right.
Yeah,
This is you here.
yeah, that's me.
Right, and you used to be able to drive through here.
Right, we can currently drive
You
through
can now,
there.
but
Yeah.
you won't be able to when this is done.
Right, which is a concern for me, as far as, I mean, there's multiple concerns. It's going to increase traffic out onto Pleasant Street because people won't be able to exit through Gould Road. So anyone coming in using my businesses, which the other business that's in my building, she told me she sees between 12 and 14 people a day there. They come one at a time. It's throughout the day, just one car at a time for her business. But it will increase traffic because we don't have a second exit onto Gould Road.
And you don't, and they use the park. I presume they use their parking over here?
We have 4 spots.
Got it.
So we have 4 spots that are marked out, measured and marked right there that are owned by 22 Pleasant. But you can exit going Gould Road.
Understood.
So Pleasant Street is a tough intersection. That's like a really huge concern, that it's very busy. You can get stuck there for a long time trying to pull out of there, and you also have limited visibility pulling out of that parking lot. It's really hard to see around those parked cars that are right there. So you get halfway out, and then you have a car that bombs across through that Pleasant Street intersection.
So it's the parked cars over here
Yeah.
next to the bank.
Yep, they're very hard to see around. So that's of particular concern. So the traffic study of Pleasant Street is definitely of interest to me. On a personal note, I wish this school existed when my kids were little. I would have loved to have the option. It's certainly a need in the community. I know, I hear it all the time through my community, how much it's a need for something like this. I wonder why it's not in a more private location, why it has to be located off of Main Street, which is already so developed and already so congested as it is. I think the landscaping's beautiful. I'm definitely concerned about how the traffic pattern and the exiting onto Pleasant Street is going to affect my business, and the noise, mostly, I would say.
And did I not hear that the children are outdoors after lunch? Is there any other time that well, it would be, as you told me, you're running the show. Is there any other time that they would be out and about making noise, as children sometimes do?
It's the middle of the day, and then it's late afternoon, around 3 p.m.
Understood.
And I think the other concerns I have are probably planning board things. But yes, mainly the noise, because we do hear the elementary school a lot, but that's set back. So I think that's it. There was one more thing, but I can't remember what it is. Just concerned about not being able to drive through that parking lot. It really changes kind of the way things have been operating for a very long time.
I see that that's true.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to tell you the school hours. At 3:10, I was in line today. So I sit in that line every day. I'm like Lauren, but I'm on the opposite side. I'm the late person that squeals in at 3:05 trying to miss the line to get down Gould Road to pick up my kids. So it really is dependent on the day, the weather, whether or not kids are taking the buses. Then you have days where there are weather delays, so then the lineup is later and at a different time. So there's a lot of variability with that Gould Road traffic. At 3:10, I was still sitting in line today. It's not typical to be that late, but it does happen.
I understand. Thank you for those comments. Anyone else in the gallery? Nancy, yes.
Thank you. Nancy Rollins from New London. I'm here actually representing St. Andrews. We are one of the abutters. We're at 64 Gould Road. I'm a warden of the vestry, and we did write a letter of support. We welcome this. We've been in conversations with Liz for well over a year about childcare. We actually looked at whether or not our facility would be able to have the school located there, and it just was not going to work for us. But we are thoroughly committed to supporting childcare. And quite frankly, with everything that's going on in the world, we would welcome the noise of 34 children who are not blood-curdling curls. Anyways, so we support this and ask that the Zoning Board of Adjustment approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Further comments from the board? Yes, by all means, ma'am, come ahead and identify yourself for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Marcy Vierson. I'm a business owner of Artisans, and I live on Gould Road. And the 3:10 pickup time was really unusual. We kind of laugh outside of my house because I have the 50s style house that literally overlooks the exit of where the cars are coming out, will be coming out, I should say. And they start lining up at 2:30, and they're typically done at 3. I mean, even before 3 sometimes. My daughter has sold vases of flowers that she's picked, and we joke that it makes a great sales line if she wants to, start being a little entrepreneur, which she is. I am thrilled about this, having had many conversations with Liz. She is one of the most thought out, thoughtful individuals I've ever met. I love the Montessori program. I would have given anything for my children to have had the opportunity to do this. I love the location. I'm huge on walking communities and communities overall. the fact that these kids have local resources, the fact that parents are being exposed to that, I love that. I miss seeing the junior high in New London, where there were so many more kids and there were so many more families in the area after school going for tea, doing things like that. I miss that. It was fabulous. That's impacted, the loss of that definitely impacted the whole town. And that's another thing, but this is bringing children back. And the sound of kids' voices is fabulous. I'm so excited about it. And yes, there is concern, as Kristen shared, coming out of Pleasant Street. That is a concern. The cars in front of the bank, you can't see around those. But that's a problem with or without this. And I'm just thrilled, and I hope that this goes through and really fully support this. Having spent time with Liz and listening to her plan and seeing this beautiful green space with kids' voices, and it's been so well thought out. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for making your comments. Anyone else wish to add? Yes, on the end, please.
Russ Moore. I'm going to say something on a personal note, and then I'll say something as chair of the bicycle
Pedestrian
So on
Committee.
a personal note, I think this goes to the core of what kind of community we're trying to build here. And we've had a lot of discussions about workforce housing. We've had a lot of discussions about how can we make New London sustainable for young families. And I think childcare is a really critical need, where young parents have to make a decision about, are they both going to be able to work, or are they going to have a very reduced income because one of them has to stay home. And having creative, fulfilling, affordable childcare, I think, is a critical component of building a multi-generational community. Secondly, as chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, I did reach out to Liz. I did meet with her, and I think this very much fits into a vision of a walkable community where young families are going to be able to utilize Main Street, and that we are in the process of further developing a more robust kind of streetscape plan for Main Street that's going to be a multi-year kind of project. But I think that this particular endeavor fits very much into building a walkable town.
Great. Thank you, Russ. Okay. Further comments from the board? In the back, please.
I just wanted to come up here as a potential parent who wants to hopefully have their children, hopefully, in this Montessori school.
I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Karen McTurnan. I'm just a local community member. And just wanted to mention a couple things, specifically that, I hope to have my kids at a Montessori school. I'm thrilled at the potential opportunity of that type of school existing locally. Specifically, I had to leave my job actually at Spring Ledge to be a full-time stay-at-home mom with my daughter, and so I loved working there. I would love to work again in the community. And I met Liz there about 7 years ago at Spring Ledge, and the first conversation we had 7 years ago was just about starting the school. So she's been thinking about this for a very long time, and she's very passionate. So I'm sure that she's thought about a lot of these issues that will come up amongst the town members. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. She gave it.
Yeah. Karen McTurnan.
Greg. I'm sorry. Greg Berger, are you still here? Oh, yeah. If you want to add something to that, go ahead. Please come. Yeah.
Hi, Greg Berger, I'm resident of New London, and in my letter that I sent to you guys, it spells out I'm very much in favor of this. I believe a community that's walkable is one of the major driving points of, or should be, of our planning, and I know Liz would do a great job with this and can answer any questions and has thought this through very well. So,
it seems so. Thank you.
My name is Katie Preach. I am a member of this community. And I actually don't know Liz, but I know some of the people that she has on board to hire, and I think of them very highly. And so I know that she surrounds herself with people, it sounds like, that are wonderful educators and so forth. And I have 3 lovely kids that I can attest to the difficulty of finding childcare. I have them in childcare, but I am on the board at the place where I have them, and our list is very long and lengthy. So the only thing I will also say is one of my lovely neighbors has talked to me recently about there used to be a school at where Sage Interiors was, like right next to Blue Loon. I guess there used to be like a little.
Yes, that we do. They came before the board requesting either a variance or a special exception. I don't remember. It was just before COVID, as I recall.
Yeah.
A lot of the same. It wasn't I don't believe it was a Montessori school plan, but it was a preschool. It was for this same group age children. And one of the great ideas of it was that it was right in the middle of town and they could walk everywhere. And then COVID came along and it didn't, I don't believe it survived COVID.
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't. And that was like kind of the bummer because she remembers like loving seeing the kids walk to all the places. Right. And yeah, so I think it's a real benefit. Montessori is a wonderful way of educating children, and especially younger children. And the closest Montessori places that we have are Newport and Lebanon. And so it would be really a great benefit and bring, I think, a lot of families that love this model. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Seeing none. Are we ready for a motion to discuss? Oop.
Oh, I was just.
You, please, yes, by all means. I don't mean to.
Hi, I'm Polly Wong. I'm the chair of the Montessori Strawberry Blossom School. I've known Liz for several years, and I thought I would stand up here and say just what an amazing, passionate, thoughtful educator she is, and she chose New London to raise her young family here, and isn't that just amazing for New London? But since everyone else said that so well, I'm also a business owner, and I just want to say that one of the benefits of having a walkable community is that they drop their kids off at school and they decide to run into Blue Loon to get coffee, or they stop in at Artisans to get a birthday present, or they stop in at Colonial Pharmacy because they need a few things from the drugstore. So I also just want to say that in addition to, like Marcy said, just really enjoying the sound of laughter in children in the community, it actually does drive revenue.
I'm sorry, how many are on the board besides you?
We have 5 board members.
Okay.
I'm one of them.
Yes. I don't need to know who they are. I just was curious how many. And
5.
your business in New London is what? I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh no, I'm just the chair of the board. My business is a national business, but I'm just saying that it helps drive revenue in general to have a more walkable community.
Understood. Thank you. Further comments from the gallery? None. Are we ready to, any questions by board members of the presenters on any issues? No, seeing none. Are we ready for a motion to discuss? I'll second that. All those in discussion on the motion to no discussion necessary. All right, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? On discussion? On discussion. This is on discussion. Yes. All right, we are in discussion. Let us have some discussion and don't hold back. Steve, you are chomping at the bit here. Let's go. Tell me what's on your mind. Summarize the findings of fact.
Okay, so as the main finding of fact, of course, is that a private school is a use that's permitted by special exception.
Yes, in the commercial zone, correct.
Yeah, in the commercial zone. This is obviously a proposal that has great community support. I don't think we can give that huge weight,
No.
but of course we can't ignore it either. To me, the presentation has addressed the items in the special exception list of things, and they've done a good job. We are entitled to add conditions that might be more stringent than, say, the front setback or the height or things like that. And I can't really think of any conditions that I would propose. And I also, although the parking and the traffic are the only issues that give any pause, but I think they're offset by the fact that the exit onto Gould Road if there is any left turn problem, you can turn right. And so that to me solves a lot of the problems. Only somebody who wanted to go down Pleasant Street might want to sweat the left turn if it was a problem at that point. Otherwise, you just go around the block.
Exactly. And the block isn't that big.
Yeah. I lived in that neighborhood for a long time.
I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
Further discussion, Peter and Conrad, anybody want to add in? Chime in. Just
Would
go
a
ahead and-
condition be that a traffic study must be supplied for the planning board, or that we just pass that along, that a traffic study of the three main arteries is undertaken with more sample size than just one day in March?
You know, I'm not sure if how much of that is a planning board issue. I have to ask Adam about that, whether they kind of delve into that more than we do.
That certainly will be part of the planning board process. If that was a condition that you felt was important, I think that could be a reasonable condition to place. If you were to not put a condition on it, it would then simply fall to the planning board's purview as to whether to accept the traffic study as presented, or maybe with some supplementary, or to request something more in-depth.
Sorry. Anybody else? Conrad, did you want to chime in?
Is there any kind of a feeling for how much demand there is for commercial property here? Or do we have vacants? Do we have, like, how would this affect our capacity as far as looking at 10 years in the future?
How do you mean, how would it affect our capacity? Would the use of this
the way
property?
that we're zoned, would we, is there, how much demand is there for commercial property in New London historically?
I guess that would I guess the answer to that might be analysis of the planning board applications over a specified period to see how many of them were commercial in nature. I don't know the answer to that. I'm thinking that might give us some idea, but I don't have an answer off the top of my head. Maybe Adam has a better sense of that than I do.
I can tell you anecdotally, Conrad, that we don't have vacancies throughout Main Street and Newport Road, and this lot in particular, and the one that Lauren owns now, were probably the two most notable commercial properties that have been on the market, and we received inquiries every couple of weeks, at least once a month on either property. So I think they're certainly desirable. Obviously, it takes a little while with commercial property to find the right occupant. It's not typically like residential where it goes on the market and it is under contract within the week. So sometimes they can sit for a while, but there's definitely interest that is maintained in them.
I'm just curious at this site, what the possibilities are if they outgrow it, or if they can't sustain the income in order to keep it going. We've allowed an exception to a commercial property, then what happens to it?
So the use could change. It could be a different use. The special
But it would
exception
have to
runs
be
with
still
the
commercial.
right. It's in the commercial zone, so any of the uses allowed by right could happen here. If somebody wanted to, this special exception is not necessarily granted solely for the use as a Montessori school. It is granted for the use as a private school. So if the Montessori school were to go elsewhere or to dissolve, they could sell the property to another private school that operated in the same manner without additional approvals necessary.
I'm going to make the comment that we've had daycare, daycare pre-elementary schools at the church. Next door to these buildings, there was a daycare for a long time. We are missing, over here, what were you going to say?
College, I believe there's another one at the college.
Well, no, but that's further away, but I'm specifically talking about this. Yeah, this property had daycares around it. And somehow the traffic has managed to come and go because the school used to be bigger than it was and have much noisier kids that weren't in school all day and walked after school. And I just think it's it's a great opportunity for us to have that age group back in town and making some noise. I certainly can appreciate wherever she went.
She left, I believe.
Oh, she had to go. I can appreciate her concern about the noise, but this, a flip side of it is this is not necessarily a new use in this area at all. And this is not, it is not New York City traffic.
Heidi, anything to add?
No, nothing to add other than my complete support of this project. I think it's great.
Okay. Julia, any observations, discussion?
I'm supportive. I don't get to vote, but I'm supportive.
So do any of the board members, having gone through this checklist, which I didn't provide to you guys, but you got the statute, and they've covered in their presentation pretty much everything. Harmony with the surrounding area, adverse effect on the environment, that was discussed. The proposed design of the structure, there's been no testimony that it would impair the value of the surrounding properties or otherwise injurious or detrimental to the neighborhood, A through J. It on the issue of noise. That, did she? Okay. Then there was one comment about a detrimental effect. Remind me again.
That's more traffic flow, definitely. That's a big change to the traffic flow.
It is more traffic flow. That is correct.
I think the comment that she had made, not only did she comment about sound, which I would imagine could be addressed within her own facility if necessary. The other point, though, was the use that she's currently enjoyed of cutting through, which is,
Right,
I'm not
traffic.
entirely sure if that's, I don't know what the nature of that use is. It sounds like it's, and I don't think it's particular, I don't get, I mean, obviously the property is owned by the applicant, so to the extent that someone is getting the benefit of that and that benefit ends, that to me is, sorry, that sounds a little bit like life, and not anything else. But so those were the two. Those were the two aspects of that comment. Just
Yeah, it's this business here of being able to come in here and go out, and that transit will stop. Unfortunately, it's kind of handy.
It didn't used to do that. It's only when the bank had all of its stuff at the corner that came into being.
Right. Yeah, please. Just please identify yourself.
I'm Kevin Jadro. I'm Vice President and Director of Real Estate Management for Bar Harbor Bank and Trust.
Ah, cool.
And
Okay.
so I guess on one token, I just wanted to address the commercial component of the lot. We were really looking for a partner to use that lot because we're community minded as well. We have pillars in our organization, one of which refers to educational opportunities for citizens in the community. So we thought this was a perfect approach when Liz approached us about using the property for that purpose. And as far as the property is concerned, we have the 3 lots there, including ours with our branch right now. The drive and access to the back parking lot that you were alluding to is our property. So essentially, there is not, to my knowledge, an easement that allows her access to the back lot. So she's just been allowed to enjoy that right now.
Well, we all have, actually. But
Right, I know. Trust me, I know. So I just wanted to make that point.
Well, as long as you're here and have identified yourself as a representative of the bank,
Yes.
and we've had discussion about the cars parked. Where are we? Here, obstructing the view. There's a rumor going around that you're contemplating renovating or maybe even demolishing that structure because of some structural defects that have been recently discovered. Would you care to comment on that?
Sure.
As it may affect?
Right. So our goal is, assuming this Liz's project were to go through, then what we would like to do is to modify our building, which would involve, it's not because of structural defects, it's just mainly because we're looking at, it's coming to the useful end, its end of its useful life on the building, and has a number of internal issues that we'd like to address as well. So we're just looking at options on reusing that lot, which would reduce the footprint.
No doubt you will be before the planning board at some point.
Absolutely.
And possibly the ZBA. Okay.
Right.
Just wanted to, right. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot,
No,
but that's,
So I'd like to move the, let's make.
you want to make the vote, is that it?
Yes, that's
I'd like to jump in with one more thing.
Please do,
I
Steve.
want to circle back to the water issue.
The water issue,
Yeah,
all
so we do have the requirement that we find that there's adequate facilities and arrangements for various things, including water supply, that it is assured. Unfortunately, water supply in this town is not assured until you get it, I think. But the requirement can be waived if we're confident that the planning board will address it. I think I'd like to add a condition that they have secured the water commitment from the water precinct before they get to the planning board. Does that sound right, Adam?
I see. All right.
Yeah.
You may.
Can you use the microphone?
So by secure, I assume you mean we can get a letter of conditional approval? Because the actual final approval from them is contingent upon the final plans being developed in the review during the building process. So I intend to, next week, seek a conditional approval, which would.
That sounds adequate for what I'm proposing. And my understanding of some of the issues that we've had with the water precinct, that is that some applicants have had, they did not have a conditional approval letter in hand. In my experience, the water precinct will follow through if you get that conditional approval, so that would be fine.
So why don't you make the motion and we can add to it what we want?
Okay, yeah, you bet. I would move that we approve the special exception application of the Montessori school. What is it? This Strawberry Blossom Montessori School, with the sole condition being that.
One with a condition, I may add another.
Okay, with a condition that the conditional approval be obtained from the water precinct prior to submission to the planning board of the site plan.
In addition, with the condition that they receive proper authorization from the state of New Hampshire and approval of the fire department for access and all that.
It's commercial.
Understood. Okay.
There's a motion.
Well, we're kind of loose about that, Steve. Why don't you come ahead and tell us what you want? We wouldn't want anything to be overlooked that could prove fatal later on. So why don't we, yeah.
I have all the scars from dealing with the planning board for the Long Meadow Commons project.
I bet.
And I think that issue, Steve, is really a planning board issue. And what I'm concerned about is that, at the precinct's annual meeting, the water precinct's annual meeting, I asked Ken Jakes, the chair, whether there was a building moratorium
I remember that.
in New London. And
He denied it.
and I was yelled at because I wasn't allowed to ask that question. But beyond that, he said, no, there's no building moratorium. But it's really not clear to me whether there is or there isn't.
Yeah.
And by conditioning your approval on that, it just is going to hold everything up versus going to the planning board and letting the planning board deal with that issue with the water precinct. I think the issue's got to be dealt with, obviously, but I'm hoping that that's not such a major condition for this group that you would say, all right, Liz can't even go to the planning board until they get a water approval from the precinct, because the precinct, there's a hearing on April 8th with the Housing Appeals Board. There's all kinds of stuff going on. They have engineering studies that will be done maybe June. So I just see everything just grinding to a halt if you need to get approval, conditional approval from the water precinct before you can even go to the planning board. So I just, based on experience, I wanted to say, this is how this proposal will play out, and I don't think that would necessarily be a good thing here.
So Steve, I'd like to make the recommendation that we put in consideration is given for both the water and the traffic control. I think we've noted that there are concerns, and we need them to know, because maybe consideration isn't the right word, if we're going to put anything more on this lengthy motion.
Well, our problem is that we have to find by a preponderance of the evidence that there's adequate, thank you, Steve, by the way, that there's adequate and lawful facilities or arrangements exist or are approved and assured for sewage and water supply. That's part of the conditions.
They could put a well down. There's water underneath us here someplace. There's lots of water in that area, I gotta tell you. They're gonna find it if the bank hasn't found it in their basement yet.
The problem with that, Ann, is that there's been no evidence put forth to sustain that assertion.
But we're not that level.
But there's also no evidence that's been put forward that they wouldn't receive the approval from the water precinct. And we heard at the precinct meeting
I guess
that there isn't a moratorium. And we
Understood.
also heard that the flow, I believe, from the engineer who testified, that the flow is the equivalent of a large home.
Understood.
So based on those factors, I'm unclear as to why, based on the use, the proposed flow, and what we know about the fact that there is no moratorium, why we would find that.
A reasonable person could
that
find
a
that
reasonable person could find
its
that-
requirement is met.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate, we did have discussions with Rob Thorpe, who is not the commission, but he represents them.
Understood.
Who's had conversations and had some cursory approval that there was an imminent, based on the flows being low for this project, that there was support by that board to grant us a conditional approval. And that was of the likely realm to occur in April at the meeting, which we're on the agenda for.
So I guess
And also, we're also, not to interrupt you, because this is redundant to the planning board phase, and it specifically says in the language, this issue could be waived to the next step. And like the gentleman said, we don't want to get hung up necessarily being able to apply to the planning board when we intend on addressing that with them. For those reasons, I think the waiver would be, in this specific case for this project, appropriate, in my opinion.
Right, so I can't speak for the rest of the board members, but I'm, in lieu of Julia's comments, I'm persuaded that I would not hold this application up for that reason, adequate and lawful facilities. Further,
Let me just say that the issue is that under this Clause D, we're supposed to be fine, we can waive it if we know it's within the planning board jurisdiction, which it is, and it appears assured. So we have some evidence that it's assured in that there's no moratorium.
Exactly,
And that
exactly.
there've been discussions.
a reasonable person could
with Rob.
conclude that probably won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would not conclude that a well dug there is assured,
All right.
because we've had some problems with wells, but I'm willing to withdraw the
Condition, all right.
Conditional.
Then that brings us then to the real troublesome issue, that the proposed use of the school in that lot is not detrimental to vehicular and pedestrian traffic in the neighborhood, or will not cause traffic congestion. That is where, that's the gravamen of the case, folks, and we have to listen to the evidence that's been presented and see where that leads us.
I think that more neighbors haven't come from Gould Road. And again, that Gould Road traffic jam is short-lived. It is not an hour and a half on an interstate.
Okay, so it's been presented that the proposed traffic past the school is one way with multiple lanes for drop-off to minimize the congestion for people turning off Main Street. They've entered into some preliminary traffic studies which indicate lesser flow uphill, possibility to make a left turn. There's a right turn lane. There's a right turn possibility on Gould Road. There's been evidence on both sides, but we have to decide whether or not there's been sufficient evidence put forth that traffic congestion will not be aggravated by this proposed use. We got to get past that. That's our. you guys don't want to talk about it anymore and you're ready to vote, we can vote. But I have to bring it up because.
Okay, let me address that, and that is that any use of that property that's commercial is going to have some traffic. The traffic, they've been thoughtful about how it's handled. Given the configuration of the property, I like the solution that they've come up with because the one-way flow, I think, is definitely the best idea they could possibly implement there. The traffic jams that are associated with the school, far less, I think, than they used to be back when there were 2 schools in that down Cougar Court, are very temporary. And in this day and age, we in New London are pretty spoiled by not having any traffic problems like they do everywhere else.
Yes.
So I just don't think that this moves the needle
No.
enough to deny a special exception.
Thank you.
As a former New York City resident, I would object to the use of the word traffic jam ever in New London, by the way.
I don't think I used that. Wetlands is not applicable. Okay, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor of the special exception that only includes one condition, and that is authorization by the state of New Hampshire. And that language was in a case that I read, and I left it at home, unfortunately. But it's authorization to operate by the state of New Hampshire after having addressed the fire access issues. I wish I had that exact language, but I do not. It's a licensure. Yeah, it's authorization is I believe the word they used. All those in favor of approving the special exception as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, you have been awarded your special exception. On to the next hurdle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We appreciate your time and attention to this project.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what we do. Further, seem to have lost my agenda. Thank you. Oh, okay. Yep. So the board is going to continue some administrative matters, but the gallery is excused. Thank you very much for your participation. All right. I've been informed that the board needs to choose a chair and vice chair for the ensuing term. The chair is happy to receive nominations.
I would nominate Michael Todd for chair and Ann Bedard as vice chair. Do those need to be separate motions?
We can do it as a slate.
We can do it as a slate.
I would like to see somebody else be vice chair.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Oh, Julia, I
Oh,
would like to recommend Julia.
No, I don't know. Who wants to, who
We have
would
to,
like
don't
to
we have
serve
to
as-
include our member who had to only recuse herself for purposes of the matter before us, who now can,
You vote for Julia, okay.
A question for the vice chair. What are the duties of a vice chair that cause you to not want to do it?
To cover the chair when they're absent, in case I get hit by a bus or a beer truck.
I've been on the board for a long time. I need to be replaced.
Replaced. She can't be replaced.
Oh, yes, I
You're
can.
irreplaceable.
Thank you. I have been on the board for a very long time. I think I'm,
Oh, you want my chair? Oh, by all means.
no, you just re-upped. Too bad.
I would suggest that somebody else who's been on the board slightly longer might be better qualified to be the vice chair or the chair, but,
You would only be able to serve as chair if you were not an alternate.
Oh.
Ah, so she's
Well,
exempt.
so Lauren's exempt too. Let's move somebody up.
All right, so
thank you, Adam.
I'll become an alternate. I like that idea.
you like that idea. You're going to step down. All right, so the choices for vice chair would be Heidi, Peter, Steve.
Okay,
Frank.
Frank's not here.
Oh, Frank's not here. Yeah.
There you go. Now we've got
There we go. So we're going to put this, so the slate is me as chair, Frank as vice chair?
I will accept vice
My
chair.
new motion.
Is that slate of
That's
officers
not-
approved?
That's not fair to Frank.
Oh, Ann.
Come on.
No, we'll move people around.
Then I suggest we table this until the next generally scheduled session when Frank will be here and can defend himself.
Okay.
Okay?
Which one of you is tipping him off?
He'll read the minutes and he'll find out that his name was advanced as a candidate, and he can address it at that time. So we'll table the election of officers. Any other business?
Can I give a plug for the housing?
Please.
Form? Can I borrow your microphone?
Sure.
So Saturday, and feel free to jump in because you also wear a housing commissioner hat, but I think you've probably all seen the various marketing materials out there that Saturday the Housing Commission will be having their forum at Colby Sawyer from 10 till 12. This is a more small table discussion, so it's not necessarily, if you came to the last one, the large presentation where that was mostly data that was reported out. This is more of small groups of 5 to 8 people discussing maybe housing styles and options, and then reporting that back. So hopefully you can make it. Due to the damages in the Ware Center, we won't be able to use the same space this time. We'll be in the lower dining hall. So it's the same building, Saturday morning the 5th. Just the door faces sort of the dorm area, which is also the reason why we have not invited all of you to the LSPA's plan
workshop.
reading workshop. We were involved in the conversation of planning that. They knew that we had a competing event for our town that day, so they do hope to hold the plan workshop down the road, maybe in the fall, so that New London board members could participate. So both things are there, but we hope you'll join us at the Housing Commission.
I will be unavailable for that. Please do.
Is it on? I just want to say to everybody, this is where we want people to come and tell us what they want in the community. The housing is old, so do we make it feasible that some of these older houses could be turned into 2 and 3 apartments, like we have at the old hospital, which is on Pressy Court across the street? I mean, all of these have been converted instead of having more buildings, or can we allow more buildings? I mean, people have got to speak up about what they want. We have to do something about some housing. We're still in session. Would you like to say something? So, the board feels really strongly we're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. If we're going to do anything, some zoning has to be changed. Either lot sizes need to come down a little bit, or density, or something. But we need to hear from the townspeople what they want, because we now know that the data's been condensed down to what is here in town, and what lot sizes, the bigger lot sizes are causing issues for some of our possible building sites.
The lot size is the problem. We have variances that are available. It's the pressure safety valve for the zoning ordinance. The fact that a lot has to be a certain size is not the death knell for what the landowner wants to do. They can apply for a variance. I can't. I'm already supposed to be at LSPA. I mean, that's how I see it. I don't think we should be running out and dicking around with the zoning ordinance.
I have a feeling Michael is not alone on that, and there will be someone else there who will say something not as eloquent, but the same.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate it. I remember I stood back in there when they argued for 2-acre lots, and Paul Gay got up and said, there's no way 2-acre lots make any sense at all, because most landowners can't maintain a 2-acre lot. And you drive around town now and you can see evidence of that. All the stone walls are growing up in brush. People can't afford to mow the place. We got an army of yard care guys running around with 1-ton trucks trying to keep track of it. They can't keep ahead of it, and people can't afford it. So I understand there are reasons why 2-acre lots are good, but there's also the pressure safety valve. We have 4, 5, 6, 10-acre lots. Oh, well, that's, yeah,
And
That's a problem.
where the zoning is there a possibility that that's reasonable to stretch that out just a little further from our 2-acre zoning? I'm not promoting that or.
God, they did it years ago to slow the rate of growth. Remember?
I had this debate with Bill Helm at the
I bet.
planning board in December of '23. And he said, well, we need smaller lot sizes so more people can come to town. And I said, why do we need more people come to town? What we need is affordable housing, which we cannot have.
We can't have.
Even, you can cut in all the lots.
You can cut down all the lots you want.
In town in
Right.
half, and you're not gonna get any affordable housing. The
No.
lots are too valuable.
It's not.
Housing's too expensive to build.
Exactly.
So we need solutions to the affordable housing, but this chop the zoning.
Lot
in
size is
half
not the answer.
is I vigorously oppose it.
And I think those are things that need to be heard by all of the community.
Absolutely.
And we can't make people hear these things by us discussing it here. We have to get people together. And you know, that's.
Yes,
really-
please.
Yeah, I mean, I was bitterly disappointed that the 60-unit Twin Pines thing has gotten stopped in its track, because there was a solution to
There
a
is,
problem.
there's definitely good
And,
cost on commercial property.
And because of some natural resource issues, we can't do it.
which were shocking, but.
Oh, dear.
And I would say too, that this great debate, hopefully it continues Saturday. And it's not, the debate is wider than just lot sizes, but unit types and styles that perhaps, a smaller lot could support, a varied cottage colony cluster of, 500, 800 square foot single family homes or whatever it may look like. So it's sort of looking broader at what are the last session identified, like Ann said, what we have and maybe what we don't have. And then now it's of what we don't have, is there anything we wish we did have?
Well, and who wants to have concrete buildings, et cetera, et cetera? We don't want high rises at all, nobody does. Not even I've spoken to. But can we somehow incorporate exactly what you're saying, affordable housing somehow in town? And when you look around, how many units we have in some of these older houses? Yeah, community case is another one. It didn't take away from.
WNTK building. 9 units in there?
There's not many.
There's 7. There's 10. And no sooner did we approve that than the main water line burst from the place.
They got rid of the snakes.
And well, there was snakes too, yeah, oh my God. For those who are interested, we are going to continue this discussion at the New London Inn after we adjourn this meeting.
So, if anybody can come Saturday, that's great, because we're trying to be able to tell basically what is getting reported to the selectmen and the planning board of what we have found, and what kind of, if we want to change any housing, add any housing, this was the charge of that group.
And I appreciate that, and I think from the demographic of, because we've heard a lot about the childcare and the services, and I think there's a frustration for me where, families do not come to these. So there's, there's people that have invested in this community and spent a lot of money on their housing, and then they feel that, the services where it is hard to get our kids into school. So, or even, just look at, our public beaches, if they're more crowded than I can remember when, and that's gonna naturally happen, but I think there is a bit of question that sometimes where the people that are putting their roots in are our voices being heard, and I agree with you, and no one shows up. So hopefully that does happen, so there's affordable housing, but there's also the people that have chosen to invest their money here, and I'm not necessarily sure if their voices are.
Maybe what we really need is public transportation to get people here to work in all these places that we need them.
Yeah. I think we should have our town meeting in Sutton so we can get used to this concept of public transportation. What do you think?
Oh, I can talk about public transportation if you'd like.
I do. Thank you, Ann, for bringing that.
No, Adam brought it up. That happened to be my bag. It's just, do we want to just stand still? Sure, I'd like to see everybody move out that moved in, that we didn't want before COVID, we didn't have before COVID. That's not-
We're still being
that's not gonna
recorded.
happen.
Just want to put that out.
We are still on the record, Ann.
If I answer the telephone one more time, if I answer the telephone one more time at the town hall when I'm working, when does their trash pickup? We don't have, we don't have trash pickup.
We had trash pickup, and he died. Dougie died, and then the trash pickup gone.
We have this wonderful transfer station where you can go and exchange things even. There's a little exchange shop, and they said, at the transfer station, junk, trash. I said, it's a good experience, but we don't have paid for by the town trash.
All right. Seeing, I'm going to make a motion, we dissolve the meeting. All those in favor?